Bernie Sanders. I think when Sanders' campaign ended because of the bullshit perpetrated against him by the Democratic National Committee and the anti-Bernie Sanders media in this country, which was goddamn near everybody, when he finally hung up his spurs in the presidential contest, a lot of us were wondering. I remember talking about it. Could what Sanders had generated inside his political campaign be continued or replicated outside a presidential campaign? And I think the answer right now is a qualified yes. You know, Sanders had proved to these jaded, useless, worse than useless, Democratic Party leaders that there was a massive, receptive audience out here in the real world for policies that he advocated but were laughed off inside the Beltway or referred to as completely insane because they were too close to communism, which they never were. And he proved, among other things, Sanders, he's not dead. I mean, this is not an obit for Bernie Sanders. I'm just working up to something here. But he proved that you did not need all this bullshit billionaire, millionaire, thousandaire, 100,000-aire, corrupt, crappy-ass money. All you needed, and he proved it, was a campaign people could connect to and an online fundraising effort. And if your platform really reflected Democratic Party values, not Democratic leadership bullshit, but Democratic Party coalition building from the 50s and 60s, if you still believed in that, if you still believed in the power of the group, then Sanders was your guy. He proved it. He proved that you could raise money in little dollops, 10, 20, 50, $100. Well, he said it so many times. The average of his contributions, $27. Online. Now, the belief is, and it's based in observable fact, and that is that Democrats only organize around presidential campaigns. That's the only time Democrats really get their shit together, and by then it's too late. Classic examples of that, well, so many Democrats are that way, but classic examples would be Jill Stein, would be Ralph Nader, would be, you can go right down the list, people that are just invisible. Now, maybe it's not their fault, but they're invisible. 3 years. And then the fourth year, when there's a presidential, boop, there they are. Hi, I'm Ralph Nader. Hello, I'm Jill Stein. Hi, I'm this and that. Sanders is trying to prove that Democratic Party idea, that you only really should mobilize in presidential elections is bullshit. And he's working on that now. Sunday, day after tomorrow, he is going to attempt to counter that so-called conventional wisdom. Across the country, Democratic politicians are holding at least 40 rallies intended to strengthen public resistance to a new wave of Republican attacks on Obamacare and Medicare, and to hear from voters about their concerns. Wow, what an idea, to really listen to voters, huh, Democratic Party leadership? Is that what you're going to do? Well, good for you. Maybe you'll get your political mojo back. And maybe not. Sanders told the Huffington Post, quote, "For the first time in the modern history of the Democratic Party, we're going to see aggressive outreach efforts. This is a beginning, I hope," he went on, "of a transformation of the Democratic Party. Our work has to focus on energizing people where they live and showing them what they are fighting for." Now, let me pause. The other night I was talking about the only effective resistance that I saw still available to normal people in this country, and there are millions of us, tens of millions of us, would be massive everything stoppage. Work stoppage, school stoppage, everything stops by putting 10, 20 million people out visibly where they just don't do anything. That's our protest. Well, okay, but ugh. I am not as activist a thinker anymore as somebody like Bernie Sanders, although we're exactly the same age. But he's there. I'm here. Ugh. So the other way to do what we've been talking about for years on this program, and especially lately, is to organize, organize, organize. Massive resistance is fine, but what comes out of that in a positive way of changing the direction of the government? I think about massive resistance operations or actions, I should say. Sometimes they work. The struggle for black human rights in this country, after massive resistance, worked, at least in the legal sense. Anti-war activity, to a degree, worked, but it didn't affect total change. This is a big complaint, I think, against those of us who went through the 60s. Okay, you guys, you gals, you did this, you did that, you fist in the air, the red shirts, the Attica Brigade, the this, the that, impeach Nixon, end the war in Vietnam, blood for the Vietnamese POW, I mean, all kinds of shit. But what was the lasting effect? Trump? Sure looks like it, doesn't it? Because I, like a lot of people who were activists in the 60s to one degree or another, and the 70s, and then it started to fade a little bit, didn't it, in the 80s? But we're asked frequently, what the hell good did you accomplish? Okay, so pot's going to be legal here pretty soon. Woo! What else did you accomplish? Well, there's a whole list of shit, but people don't necessarily want to hear it. But Bernie Sanders and people of his age, and God damn it, I'm going to put myself in there, we lived through it. We know the mistakes that were made. We know the efforts that were poured out righteously to try to bring change, to try to counter all the negative shit that was going on against women, minorities, native people, the nuclear industry, all of it. And I don't think there is any, I don't think it's possible, is it, to find an objective evaluation of the success or failure of that movement unless, and that movement was Hydra-like. I mean, it wasn't a movement. There were hundreds of movements at one time that were had coalesced into one. But it would take someone truly objective to figure out, okay, what good was accomplished, how much of it was wasted energy, how much of it was bullshit. But Sanders, he told the Huffington Post, for the first time in the modern history of the Democratic Party, we're going to see aggressive outreach efforts. This is a beginning, I hope, of a transformation in the Democratic Party. Our work has to focus on energizing people where they live and showing them what we are fighting for. End quote.